Good morning. Okay, so we start. You have questions?
So anyone with a question, please unmute yourself.
Can they hear? Can they hear you?
They can now.
Oh, okay. Does anyone have a question regarding the refuge tree, the details of the refuge tree?
Yeah, refuge tree or about the refuge.
Or anything about refuge? Mm-hmm.
All right. So these are the materials that I have. This is
Yeah.
what I'm going to use to do
The retreat.
the retreat.
Yes.
And we're doing 5 days of that. I mean, over a 3-month period. We got. Does that mean I have to dedicate like an
Maybe
entire
they
day,
can
or
make up for that.
can it be?
I'll repeat what he says. Yeah. So, so we have a question from John, who is here in the room, and he said, he just wanted to confirm that the materials that he received, for the refuge portion, so the refuge sadhana, the instruction manual, and the retreat guidelines are what he needs in order to do his his personal days of retreat, and he wanted to confirm that he should do 5 days of retreat in total over the course of a 3-month period. And the answer to that is yes. However, you have really as long as you need to complete your days. And technically, we've already completed the 3-month period for refuge. And but what has now been happening is that people aren't really getting all of the materials that they need necessarily to do the retreat sometimes until the end of the course. And so, since this is a 3-year program and perhaps will end up being elongated somewhat even, it really, you have whatever time that is needed to complete those 5 days. Of course, to be a little bit caught up with the progression of the course, it's better to try to get your retreat days in sooner rather than later, because you know how it is. We always get behind with those kinds of things. Does that answer your question? Yeah. Yeah, so he said, he just confirmed that's
Yeah, so also, best finish, the time, but so we can still keep going, so.
Yeah, so ideally, and also I'll just make a note that, you may, for those of you who are continuing on for the Vajrasattva portion of the program, we have started off by making the sadhana available to you right off the bat. So that should make it a little bit easier to try to get in your retreat days, before we finish the 3-month period on Vajrasattva. However, if many of you are also still behind, and haven't gotten in your retreat days for the 4 thoughts, all of the 4 thoughts, or haven't gotten your retreat days in for refuge, then, it may be that you're still catching up on refuge during the Vajrasattva portion. Also, a good question for Drupon Rinpoche. So if people haven't finished their refuge retreat days, should they, with Vajrasattva, can they go ahead and sort of mix it up and do some days of Vajrasattva, some days of refuge? Or do you want people to do it in order?
I think order is better.
Okay, so that's Drupon's response, is that it's better to do it in order. So if you still haven't caught up with your refuge days, while we're working on Vajrasattva, it's good to designate your retreat time to refuge still once we've moved on to Vajrasattva until you've finished, and then start accumulating Vajrasattva retreat days.
So you have questions and comments?
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you, John.
Okay, so, my understanding when we were going through some of the training was, we dedicate an entire day for these 5 days. For me, typically I'm in the office 6 days a week, Sundays the only time I have a full day,
Yeah, yeah,
and I need a microphone.
yeah. Sorry.
People appreciate your questions too. Okay, thank you. Okay, so I was asking about the 5 days that we're dedicating to the practice. And for me personally, I work Monday through Saturday at my office, and Sundays I have free, but I'm typically here on Sundays, at least from 10 to 12, which would be taking me away from that specific practice to do whatever practice we're doing here.
How to deal with that?
Yeah, I'm trying to, because it's kind of hard for me to not respond to clients if they want to come in and see me, because that's how I earn my living. And can you do it in pieces? I mean,
You mean in pieces like the whole day is not a full day of retreat?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying.
Good question.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, that's actually this difficult, So if you people or the level that you don't to you na, the chigures or to you na, ben to you just 4 or 5 days finish to like yaborwa. Imbi in a yang that the ko condition dungo growa. Then the ben half day or half day or chin and degrees in that to momo growa.
Yeah, so Drupon's response to that is that, if you're able to do the 5 days of retreat, that's ideal, right? If you can really have, a day at a time really dedicated to, full, really get the sense of what it's like to do retreat. But if your conditions are such, like you're expressing, John, then you have to sort of work the best that you can within the confines of your situation. So perhaps that means doing half-day retreats, accumulating retreat more as you get a half a day at a time. So you can get creative and do what ends up working for you given your own unique circumstances and schedules.
Welcome.
Hi,
Okay.
Valerie.
Hello. My question is more a general question because in the past years, I never learned how to do, I think you call it the 9 breath before meditating.
Yes, the 9 rounds of breathing.
Could you just quickly go over that so I understand what you're doing more?
Okay. 원래 당보직 랍는 릭사리 that 같이 거래 랍나 기타가 또 내라운드 랍 그레이시나 원이지나 그 3 나라운드로 이나 제하고는 데그레이스.
So first of all, just to help to clarify this, so we call this the 9 rounds of breathing because we do 3 sets of 3 when we do this, but you can understand the basic pattern by just learning 1 set. And sometimes it can be done that instead of doing 3 sets of 3, you just do one set of 3. So he's going to demonstrate with one set of 3, and then you can see how you would do it like 3 times for one side, 3 times for the other side, and 3 times for both sides.
다티 그 트리드 하거나 되네 고집받치 하더래서 원 트리드 하거나 와 트리드.
And so again, if you understand one set, one round, essentially, then you understand how to do the 9.
되네 다 나공대 베나차 하나 가서다 단단 락파이에 게 나무용 바까기도 와.
So the first thing that we're doing is with our right hand, we're blocking the left nostril. And so you can see how Drupon Rinpoche is crossing his arm over his body. So he's going to his left nostril and blocking that first.
다티 인도 야오 right nostril 오 야오 그래서.
And so when the left nostril is blocked, you are inhaling through the right nostril.
되네 야 강반다고지 도고 강반다고지 뭐 그래서.
And we're inhaling in such a way that we're really filling our chest cavity. He said actually stomach, like we're fully filling the torso, if you will.
얘는 다티 그 inhaling 들라 지파레스.
And so the inhalation is the same, always the same.
Right. And 얘는 야 칠로 땅야티 그 트리트 만다고 그래서.
But when it comes to the exhale is different. So each exhale is kind of done in a unique way, in a different way.
다 넘버 탐보테 야고 드네 만들은 양 데라와 right nostril 까 그러와. 대가 안에 다 텔레칼라고 그래서나 드네 옥티스 파 링본다고 드네 혁 쳔본다고 지 땅고고요 그래서.
And so as you're blocking your left nostril and then you're breathing through your right and then you're changing and you're exhaling the yombala through the left, then the first exhalation is, we describe it as being long and strong. So if you watch how he's doing that.
다 second 카네리 라비나 드네 strong reading short 치고 그래서.
So then the second exhalation is strong and short.
다들
Like that.
드네 다 숨바디 카레라위나 드네 다 텔라고요 여러분. 카레 잠라 링마 라브드네 베 디스 잠보 치네드네 링보 땅네드네 베나 토고 참마야 소용로지 completely out 치고 그래서 칼레.
And then the third and final exhalation is described as being long and gentle. And we could also say full and gentle because the emphasis here is that you're breathing out not with the same, not with a ton of force, but you're breathing out and, really getting all of the air out of the torso, out of the chest cavity. And so you're really like fully exhaling so that there's no kind of wind, if you will, or air that is sort of left behind.
다텐다고 있나 드네.
So then at that point, all of the wind is fully expelled, from the chest cavity. You're really breathing every last bit of wind out. And then we
and so
then we
insulation, inhaling both.
So then we repeat the exact same process, but reversing the nostrils. So the same way, following the same pattern of exhalations.
So this I show you completely around, but before you have more
Does anything to clarify?
clarifications or questions?
No, that's great so far.
Okay, so there I show you one kind of complete.
So now it's from both nostrils, which he didn't explain before. The third and final round.
Okay.
Dorje Kutsu.
You say last one. Okay. So first, this we call this I think the or Wajapes or Dorje Kutsor. So this tongue use like squeeze in the ring finger.
So your thumb is pressed against the base of the ring finger.
And then like this.
So the index finger is extended, yeah, in both hands. And so when you're blocking the nostrils, you're still maintaining this mudra, if you will.
Right. So you use the right hand, then can left hand underneath the elbow, something like that.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you so much. That's so helpful.
Oh yeah.
Thank you.
Drupon, Zolby has a question online, and this question is it necessary to visualize the refuge tree with all of the detail?
Jitanga to refuge practice because the Kojitan depends on Gahi, Rikpaya Boyore, and Gahi, the visualization of Boyore, and Gahi Boyo Marawa, Imbina Yanko, that Jitan visualization chair, the Chatanji chair, the Bekaleka Boyores, Imbina Yang, that Carcinate Nyamnechi with Nekabla. Ngats rotating scenery that Hamboyan, something ngats these ben refuge section by section these the visually teni yanko chatang ro imba ro tini visualization chi tate ko khandi le la ta ko res yin yang tini yang samsa ko visual mawi mai ba bena jamro da chance ya thigang la focus chi tate ko ninja la ko chi go grace tamato yang ko ta kwa den refuge be china yang kale khagrwa kale khakbo yore thini ta ko zo samba da lo go gro samba da theba ta lo da go go ta tin bo ta kora sabre sabre nda wo tine china degrees.
So he said that in response to Zolde's question, you know, it really depends. First of all, different people have kind of different strengths in different areas of practice. So like for some people, they're particularly good at visualization. So if you're somebody who is particularly good at visualization, then you might want to focus more on building the visualization. For others, it's harder. Of course, you want to make an effort with the visualization, but it's a matter of gauging, you know, what feels like pushing too hard and what feels like it's kind of like moving more easily into a sense of an overall visualization of the refuge tree. So, and you can also sort of spend periods of focusing on different parts of the refuge tree, like sort of moving around to the different sections and kind of, you know, visualizing some of the characters and then maybe, you know, like to some extent, and for some it may come very clearly. It may not be difficult. For others, it may feel like a real push. It may feel really challenging. And so you kind of have to gauge what feels like it's supportive to your practice, you know, depending on your own kind of your own tendencies. And so but what definitely happens as we do these practices is that there is some degree of alternating. So like sometimes you are like using, sort of strengthening that faculty of visualization and focusing on the details of the refuge tree, and then sometimes you're really letting the visualization go so that the most important thing, Drupon Rinpoche said, is that you're relaxed and that you have a quality of faith and kind of, you know, surrender, or a sense of faith and devotion that is your mind state as you're doing the prostrations, as you're reciting the refuge prayer, that's the most important quality that we need to have in our practice. And then apart from that, we're kind of alternating between, he said, building the visualization or clarifying the visualization and just, you know, generating kind of a clear awareness that is pervaded by a sense of faith and devotion.
All right.
Another question, Drupon. So Javier is asking about wanting to have a daily practice, but he has only 1 or 1.5 hours of time each day. And he's finding it difficult to recite all of the prayers, 10 minutes on each of the 4 thoughts, and then have time to do the refuge practice or whatever section he's focusing on. So he's asking for some guidance. He wishes to have a daily practice, but he has short time. If he tries to do everything.
Rita Katangoma Jishuimba Tindi, Tajanga to the J. Bena Leka Le Govadan, Tini, to here, daily practice no Tini, Natini, Bena Jamrondo winner, Jamro Corando, and Degree Stagic.
Kiamdro Chuba Penadinda de Lodo Nambaji Machine.
On to Majinetine, to the Jim Mentor to book Maris.
So he says that he feels like he mentioned this before, but you know, if you have time constraints, you do not have to go through the whole progression of the sadhana. You can do abbreviated opening prayers, and you do not have to do the recitations of the four thoughts. You can go straight to the refuge sadhana, and focus mainly on the accumulation of the prostrations and recitation of the mantra, or of the prayer. Without doing the mantras like
directly practice
the Sanskrit and alphabet and so on and so forth. You can just go right to the refuge section.
So, kind of, you've already explained it, but it might be helpful to say it also again, maybe in another clear way. I think in the beginning, a lot of people think there's like one correct way to do the practice. And if they don't do everything that they've heard explained, they don't think they're doing it.
They're missing something, yeah.
And so it might be helpful to know that many people do the same practice many different ways, not just based on time, but based on who they are, what they're good at, like you said. And different things in the practice show up in your practice for different people. It might be helpful if they understand that's okay, if it's okay.
So, pena de samsamna gayan sana titsu lape gare lauko gare tenda de pena chetang rawo che yore dambo ko garawa tini yang samsamna oh chikchina nga che lagi yo sare nga tenda de chetang yang chikpa chikchang che gimen tini nga nune tenda de nyamling yapo yo samare detson rawo che garawa tini kongi lapa de pena me re la tenda nyamling chetang tes chepario wa mi la gi chepario ba la tene chepario re tene samsama nyamlin pena chepe kala pena mikba che keni na tene mikba sopo yong sigere shimba yena tene yang depa chimbo yong sigere tene yang tenda nyamyong kaka yore di manze che tang yang kaka yore tene yang digyore hakoa chikchina yapo yore ro digyona
Re da tinero wa ta nga zo di ko zo che hyo dai the most important part kare la vi na ta nga zo right wrong se ya ji yor wan rig me do se ya di khar cha di yor sen da nga zo nyamle chi ta ma ji nyamle ma ji na man de wa ba
yeah.
nyamle chi na drag di yor es
So the main thing is like, you know, we don't have to get caught up in some idea of there's a right way and a wrong way. What determines like the right and the wrong way to practice is whether you do the practice or not. So if you're practicing, period, you're doing it right. And if you're not practicing, then you're not practicing. Then you're doing it wrong. So as long as you're practicing, you're on the right track. Does that make sense?
Ting di ta ti ko ji the samang ga la karsena sangje ta changcho samba ta tamji ne simchen la ti tungu yo res the ko sangje khorai kila tungu yo mare sangje khorai tumbi na o thandarang sangje ya chi thandarang chi la gurwa ina ko te simchen chi to bu yo marwa te majido so simchen la tungu yo res simchen tumbi simchen la pa tungu yo res 상제 코랑고 상제 코랑도 뭐 단다랑 상제 나올라나 상제 코랑 왜 신지로 완다 봐 인지로 와 얘는 심chen 키 투고요 뭐와
근데 심chen 된다디 두바낭 진체 메투바로
노 엔도바낭이 차로 그래스
데 산제기 텐네
말이 선이 틀려 말이
아고고
상제 킨도바 히산 다 들어야다 좀 내가 거기서 말이 다 강한다리야 가르스나 아주 줄라래 되어 circumstance conditions 오다 뒤인도다 틀리드네 다 as much as possible 해야 돼 지기거래 추라 가르스나 대송 그래 되네 추라 지바요래 두바요래 거 강산다 만다 요비 좀 센터를 되네 추요로 이나 추치나 저나 두바 지난 되고요래 저랑게 컨디션 저랑게 capacity 지그래 되네 대가나 예바 지난 되그래 오다 디니 볼라 되네 고 강아치 토바데 지나 텔렌데 버레스
So it's important to recognize kind of like how expansive, the methods and the Buddha's teachings are, and that is because of the different capacities and dispositions of sentient beings. And so because each individual has such a specific set of circumstances and kind of karmic propensities and tendencies, then the Dharma is not exactly the same for every single individual, that it really is a very personal and kind of unique and individual way in which each individual kind of the experience of Dharma practice happens for each individual. And so we don't have to feel that there's some that we're really restricted in exactly like the way to do it. The main thing, as he said before, is that we're actually just doing it. We're just doing the practice.
Right. Yeah, you can do extensive, you are right. And you can do the short one, that's is right.
Drupon, there's another question online from Danny Zen. And the question says, regarding the refuge tree, he would like to know the meaning of all the symbols in the image, like the objects, flowers, the different ones, rainbows, the middle clouds with beings and animals. So he's asking for more detail, maybe.
다 제타 들이 가서게 코란 속에다 유빅 라마트졸라테네 텔랑가 속에테네 직다 단다 탕가 페인팅다 또 집이 깔라테네 직 닝지고 요와 강닝지고 들어가는 게 기직다 맞좀 쳐봐 부야 틴리기테네 다 좀나 쳐봐테네 특이어레스 틴디테네 베나차샤나고 dorje changla yang remoji yori dorje changla remoji yori tene yang telo bala remoji yori tini po quality khanda wotini chadi yo mares tini da koji tini ki remoji ji wotini tigi yori tini mengzi nyimbo yori yina yang da koji ti sanji ke quality sonji no ji ma to be kita jibe jig method ji tina ti method ti ke thonda do
So he said, sometimes like, and we can see this when we look at the different types of tankas, that like of different lineage masters or deities. A lot of the details that are included in the tankas, although they're symbolic in meaning, and usually, especially when it comes to the details that you're speaking to of flowers and so forth, these are usually offerings, and they're done differently in different styles according to the wish of the painter, of the tanka painter. And so if you look at, for instance, like a tanka Bhadradara, and then you look at a different tanka, of like Tilopa, and if you look at different tankas of both of those done by different artists, you'll see different details there. And that kind of, they all represent, offerings and the enlightened qualities of the Buddhas.
But this means
but there's not really so much differences between them. They're not different. They don't mean so the paintings are not the same, the depictions are not the same, but it doesn't mean that they have that the deities or beings that are depicted have different qualities.
yina yang da tanda di nga tsu di yubi lama tazo yinbi na tani da tindi res tindi da yang ji yidam ke deti tazo na wina yang ko ji changsen khan nam yo wa tazo tsamala yang ko tonda yo res.
However, when it comes to, for instance, like depictions of lineage lamas, and as opposed to depictions of Yidam deities. So the Yidam deities are more specific in that, they are always depicted, in the same way, that there's a specific way of, they have to have the different, hand implements that they possess and, specific to what that Yidam deity is.
Ben cha cha da tanda nga tsu lineage kinala yang da kahi changsen Europe na delo bando nya yo wano tene saraha ndo ina kabala ndo ina ta kuma so tene ndo
Te da yorwa marebe da.
kabala in sare so kuma so
Da yin zare samsung mishi. So
ina oda tene yores
so the
zola yang tonda yores
yeah, so there are differences with regard to, and sometimes, so sometimes like lineage lamas might be depicted uniquely. It's not as standard, but then there are certain lineage lamas who do usually have like specific elements that you see that makes them easily identifiable. For instance, Tilopa is almost always depicted with a fish, or like Saraha with a kapala. So there are different things that are, often used to indicate that this is a particular lineage lama.
oko this meaning the meaning yores tonda
And they have meaning according to that teacher's life story.
Drupon Law, Ricardo makes a request for the future to learn about some of the lives of the various masters.
really that thing to plan yores ro nga to yoro ta ko de lineage samala this tanda nga to ta yores ina da project di ja chembo do ina da tene ta nga to ti che ke chari yores.
So actually, he said, we do actually have a plan to compile something with some more detail about each of the lineage lamas. It's all there. It's very extensive in Tibetan, so it'll be a process of compiling something like that. But that is part of the plan.
Mm-hmm.
So far, there's no other questions that I see online. Online, correct me if I'm wrong.
I had a question actually. About the prostration itself, if Drupon could talk about it in terms of its effects on the channels and winds to do prostrations as a yogic practice.
Ta normal short zalung but chitati chatsya di tene nga choda lu chatang peng do an peng yore stati ko ji chatsya di benada chorang la wingire tsibena nga cho churu knala tungkonda yore itega na ita tanda cho we see the yoga la no samo tambina da tega na ita be kiem exercise da mana yorwa yina ya da so ji pas to kari yorsana ji sifi kambe chi to re lakbe chi to re tene ji tene labgu yorwa yimbi ina ya da di koji chak one position roji ready yori tina ya tati dena chamala tene pengi yores tadza mayin be je tene ta ji karsena ko lujibo mayin ba tene tele na ki tene sem pengi do tene sem de ko karsena ko sem na lusen bo interdependent ro ta of course ta ti ga tene ko ji zalong tile senare ko da pengi yores.
So he said, well, first of all, even putting aside like the benefits of the subtle body, they're incredible physical benefits, period, to doing prostration. So not only is it a spiritual practice, but it really contributes, it becomes an incredibly effective form of exercise that contributes to the overall health of the body. And definitely in terms of the kind of purification or the health of the subtle body, just like you have in the 6 yogas, the practices of Chokor, prostrations most definitely help to benefit and clarify, the channels, winds, and drops. And so, and there are all of these, also there's a lot, every aspect of prostration has symbolic meaning. So there are descriptions of, what the different, when you're holding your hands, in the gesture of prayer, and then when they're down on the ground, that there's the different kind of corresponding meanings in every aspect of the prostration. And that there's just overall benefit, to the body and overall, because the body and to the mind, because the body and the mind are interconnected. And so, as we do prostrations, there's tremendous benefit, on a coarse physical level, on a subtle body level, and on a mental level. There's, the body and mind are greatly benefited.
Drupon, there's a question from Danny regarding the top of the refuge tree next to the 2 Pure Lands, asking what are those beings, the gods making offerings, I think is what he's referring to. So he's asking for information on that image.
These on the green clouds, maybe?
Yes.
Well,
What are they and what do they mean?
tila la buya sarwa. So what is other side?
Same.
Oh, okay. Tadi offering in Samaris.
So he thinks in this case these are not actually representing offerings.
Tatele Karatsongu Yoris Lavina Tetigua. Benanga Sota, Ya Hatazukanga Solatini, Chinjila Buyosares.
But
Karsana
rather,
Bena Chakantanga, so one long big Gavlatini, Jictine, Do Tornetini, T Gavla, Karchigi or Lavina Tini, one good or what, but Do To Hombaki. Perso, intelligent Namdoa, that he kept Benatangi Hinkam or Washinkam Ni, no Hinkam Rede, Manga to that change love scenario, one on say at Nijit Songusaris.
but that probably what is being depicted here is like blessing or empowerment by empowerment deities, because normally when we have, for instance, in a sadhana, the deities bestow empowerment, the empowerment deities bestow empowerment, and they're often holding a parasol and
Retreat, yeah.
vases. So here it's like you have these deities are manifesting from the pure Buddha fields, and so it's representing bestowal. He thinks bestowal of empowerment.
Excellent.
That's our Sumi. So do we have any other questions or
No other questions online?
no other questions?
Okay. Yeah, also, James, thank you. So this you put very nice, all the names and the corrections. Thank you.
Yeah, really deep, heartfelt thanks to James, who just did an incredible job of putting all this information together and labeling all of these different, every single different depiction in the refuge tree. Really incredible work that will benefit many beings. Thank you, James.
There are still a few figures I'm not sure about, but we're working them out.
Thanks. Yeah, and also just a reminder that, this is really complicated because in the book, that we have been referring
Cut it
to,
outside.
the refuge tree is a different depiction. So it may take a little while to clarify, like fully clarify the details.
Yeah, still we working on, keep going. So history and so on. Thank you. Okay, thank you. So now maybe the short dedication.
So we can do a short dedication prayer. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. And as you know, I think probably most of you who are here are also signed up for Vajrasattva. So we'll begin the section on Vajrasattva tomorrow with the teachings tomorrow at 10 a.m. So page 24 of the prayer book. No, that's all right. That's all right.
I think okay,
Everyone knows it by heart anyway, he says. By the virtues collected in the three times, by myself and all beings, and samsara and nirvana, and by the innate root of virtue, may I and all beings quickly attain unsurpassed, perfect, complete, precious enlightenment. May the teachings of the great Jigungpa Ratna Shri, who is omniscient, Lord of the Dharma, Master of interdependence, continue and increase through study, practice, contemplation, and meditation until the end of samsara.
Okay, thank you. See you tomorrow. Thank you.
Thanks, Drupon.
Thank you, everybody.